Let's get real for a minute. Have you ever looked in the mirror and barely recognized the body staring back at you? Gaining weight during menopause can be so frustrating and confusing and downright disheartening. But here's the thing, the number on the scale doesn't define your worth. So many of us have been told that, if we just eat less and exercise more, we're going to maintain this perfect body throughout our lives. But guess what? Menopause kind of throws a wrench in that plan, and our hormones change, our metabolism slows down, and suddenly those go-to diets, they just don't seem to work anymore. But what if there was a different way? A way to approach menopause weight gain with compassion and respect and focus on overall health and vitality. That's what we're diving into today. We'll explore how to untangle ourselves from diet culture messages and embrace our changing bodies and nourish ourselves from the inside out. So stay tuned for some eye-opening insights and practical tips. And hey, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button so that we can keep inviting experts to share their real insights. I'm so thrilled to introduce today's guest, Deb Benfield. Deb is a registered dietitian nutritionist with over 35 years of experience helping women heal their relationships with food, eating, and their bodies. Deb has recently turned her focus to helping women age with vitality and body liberation. Her groundbreaking program is designed to tear down those limiting beliefs around aging and promote a healthy relationship with our bodies. I couldn't think of a better person to guide us through the challenges of menopause, weight gain, and body image. Deb's compassionate approach is exactly what we need to navigate this journey with grace and self-love. Hi, Deb. Welcome to this episode of the podcast today. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
You have touched the lives of so many women over the last 35 years. And I feel that your approach to a very common struggle is a little different. Can you tell us how you decided to focus on women and their relationship with food? And maybe has that evolved a little bit over the years?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a huge question. Thank you. Let me start by saying thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
I am always thrilled for a chance to have this conversation. And I believe your audience is women who are midlife and older, which is my particular focus right now. I started this, as you said, a very long time ago, and I'm very fortunate in that when I started working with clients, I started referring them to therapists because eating is a very complicated relationship, and relationship to body can be complex. So when I did that, I started a relationship with a therapist who was specializing in eating disorders, and we hit it off, and she became my supervisor for my clinical work. So I very quickly, very early in my career, became really focused on working with women with eating disorders. So it has helped me work to prevent disordered eating and disordered relationships with our bodies from the get-go. And I'm a very curious person, so I've done a lot of reading and studying and training to support all of that work. So over time, I think I've picked a little bit of this, a little bit of that when it comes to gleaning skill set and modality, because I'm also a yoga teacher and really believe in centering somatic process or body connection. Because bottom line, we're in relationship with our bodies and really using that relational lens to kind of work toward what's actually healthy. Mm-hmm. So I really prioritize mental health and not just looking at the straight kind of nutrition work that I think I was trained to do, and how many of my colleagues approach nutrition is to really just look at the diet. I look at how eating as a behavior works to support a person's best whole person health, including feeling satisfied, including allowing yourself to have pleasure. I feel like our bodies get reactive to the level of hunger, to feel undernourished is activating for our nervous systems, and we get dysregulated. And we tend to have like cycles of being restrictive and reacting to that by then eating past fullness. It can feel very disempowering, like you can't trust your body. But instead, to really look at how you can support your body in feeling truly satisfied and supported by your food choices actually helps to calm our nervous systems and helps us get off the roller coaster. So that can be complicated and definitely needs to be individualized for each person. But I think that summarizes my approach.
You're right. It definitely can be a complicated thing because it just seems, and I've heard from many women in the community, it is midlife and menopause that they struggle with, and those things kind of come together at the same time. But this has been a constant struggle most of their lives. And, why do we have such an odd relationship with food sometimes? And do you think it gets worse as we age?
Well, I think our feeling that we are under pressure gets worse as we age, because it's this pretty terrible intersection of, like, your body is changing in midlife. It's true. Our bodies are in the process of shifting because of many things, because of hormone change and changing in the composition of our bodies, no matter what we do. I mean, there's a lot that we can do to make some difference, but no matter what you do, you lose muscle mass and gain body fat after a certain age. And at the same time, we are being really focused on by diet and wellness culture. There's an awful lot of money being spent on marketing programs to control our bodies. So it's this really tough, high pressure place to find yourself. If you let yourself fall into that, you're going to be struggling with how you feel about your body. And I think that's really sad. And I get a little angry about the fact they just can't leave us alone. Well, just leave us alone and let us be in our bodies. I mean, yes, we need to pay attention to how we nourish ourselves and move our bodies. I'm all about that. I'm a dietitian and I believe in best health. At the same time, it's just kind of out of control right now. It's just too extreme for most people to be able to sustain themselves on that.
Yeah, because I think we have a hard time getting past all these images coming at us, and every commercial is trying to tell you to do something different. And I think what you're saying is that it's not that we shouldn't be taking care of our bodies, but we shouldn't confuse that with making ourselves feel bad because we're not doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, it can feel very confusing and overwhelming. Yeah, understandably. And we're all very unique. I mean, there's not one plan that's best for all of us anyway. We're all incredibly unique. The older we get, the more unique we are. So it needs to be individualized.
I'd be really curious, and I'm sure you might even have an answer to this, over the course of a woman's lifetime, how many of these different diets have we tried?
I actually read this last week that most women have tried 162 diets in their lifetime.
I can't even picture that, what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that most people say when they start working with me and I ask about relationship to body, we start from the beginning around the story that they have about their bodies. It usually starts in the 3rd grade. I mean, it starts really, really early, where people start to get messages that their body is a problem that they need to address. So, of course, I mean, I'm 65. Back in the 60s and the 70s, Weight Watchers was the place to go. And I think that continues on. But I think it's okay to call out Weight Watchers as like where most people started their diet journey, usually with a well-intended family member. And, it just keeps on. Of course, it intensifies when your body changes in puberty, and then there are other times that I think we're more at risk, like after we have a baby, if you choose to do that. And then again in menopause, there are certain times that our bodies change because of life cycle reality. And those are the times that we rush into diet programs to try to control things.
Yeah, I feel that there's a little bit of panic at that,
Mm-hmm.
that point. You have that baby or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the circumstance, and you're like, I need a solution right now.
Yeah. I mean, the snap back, like snap your body back culture it's just too much pressure.
What is the rest of the process in working with someone who comes to you with this struggle?
Well, again, trying to like really disentangle and dismantle belief systems around what's good and bad about food and what's good and bad about bodies and try to neutralize that. And then to look more internal. This is going to launch us into a more complicated conversation, but starting to mend the fracture that has taken place from diet culture. Diet culture has told you from the outside that these are the rules to follow. And in doing so, has fractured you from the connection you have with your own body's wisdom and appetite and sensations that let you know, like when you need to be fueled and when you've had enough, and maybe even sometimes what would work best, because we're all different again. And when you follow external rules, you have to like truly disconnect from internal sensation and even like ignore and, in my opinion, kind of neglect your own body. And the work that I do is to try to heal that fracture so that you get more connected to mend that mind-body connection that restores our well-being overall, especially as we age. I think it's a really important time to do this work because you want to be able to feel what your body is letting you know. Like we receive lots of instincts from our bodies. And if we're not connected to that and kind of push it aside, we miss important cues, including when you're hungry and when you're satisfied. So to heal that mind-body connection is at the very center of what I try to create in the client that I'm working with.
You've probably heard women reference good foods and bad foods. Does that make you a little crazy when you hear?
Well, most of us feel like we are being good or being bad
Yeah.
based on eating foods that we associate with good or bad. And therein lies the problem because we start feeling guilty and then we have some level of shame about our choices in our bodies. And that is what I think we need to dismantle. And then on top of that, we've got stories about our aging process. Just aging in and of itself completely complicates all of this. It's just another layer to work through around like trying to trust your own body, trying to befriend and even like partner with your body. There's a lot of healing that takes place with that shift.
Not I don't want to get too personal, but you get to a certain age and there's relationship struggles and family and things coming at you, and you go for your annual doctor's visit, and all of a sudden there's this whole host of things that you didn't think were a problem, and now suddenly they are. How do you balance? And I think that that's what you're referring to, is having that relationship where you think that you're okay and that not necessarily anything is wrong, but then from the outside, all of these things start coming in and you start to doubt that relationship.
Yeah. Wow. First, I'm sorry that that's happened because it's really uncomfortable and disorienting.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a doctor that is supportive of listening to you to see what you want to do about your health, what's important to you. Now, I'm not saying that you get to ignore lab values. I mean, I
No.
think lab values are important, and really having all the tests and the vaccinations and all the things that you're supposed to have as you hit certain ages, of course. But at the same time, there's a lot of bias in medicine. We have lots of data now that supports that there is a weight stigma and anti-fat bias and ageism within healthcare providers. So just try to educate yourself and be aware of like what you might be told. And is there a lens that they're looking at you through that may not be in your best interest? For example, Ashton Applewhite, who is kind of like a big leader when it comes to looking at ageism in our culture, tells the story of going to the doctor about knee pain. And her doc says, well, it's just your age. At this age, you can expect this. And she says, well, my other knee is the same age. And it's like, it's not age. It's like, let's get more curious than that.
Right.
And there are many, many, many stories about assumptions that are made about a person based on what they weigh, instead of like looking more deeply into like, is there something else going on that we can look at? So be aware of that. So I don't know if that helps you, but I think it's unfortunate that many times our healthcare providers have a bias.
Yes. And you try to develop a good relationship with them, but you don't see them every day. You see them when something goes wrong, or during that annual visit where you're reminded that maybe you should check in on yourself. So it's, it is definitely something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, for sure.
During this past week, you hosted a free online workshop, and I think it's part of your Aging with Vitality and Liberation program. Can you tell us a little bit about this program? And I came to realize it's not your typical advice about weight loss, and I found that really, really refreshing.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite of the typical advice about weight loss. And I try to help people understand that to have a liberating relationship with your body, while also wanting to value choices that support your vitality, is like, you don't have to be in that doesn't have to be in opposition. What I mean by that is like the tone of body liberation is like pushing against all of the pressure, the social cues that women live with about their bodies should look a certain way. Like pushing against all of that pressure equals body liberation. At the same time, you can make choices that value your energy, your sense of vitality as we age. I think we can make choices that support our well-being, including our emotional health. And like, I'm monitoring the tone of my language right now. I'm wanting to say words that you probably don't want me to say. And like push against the social narrative about our aging bodies. I've just really had it with the pressure that women are under around our bodies in midlife and beyond. I think it's just taking the joy out of our lives if we let it. I am pushing against that and honoring your health. I don't think it has to be one or the other.
You said during the workshop, you were telling a story, and I'm just thinking about it now, because even though it's hot where I'm at, we're pretty soon going into fall.
Yes.
And there's going to be a point in time where we all are going to go into our closets and something isn't going to fit the way it did last fall.
Yes.
And it tends to, for many of us, throw us into kind of this tailspin. What do you suggest when we go to that closet in a couple of weeks and things just aren't the same as they were last year?
I'm glad you're bringing up that story. It's one of my favorite stories because it's a story that I encounter personally and with all of my clients and friends and family. Because yes, at these transitional times when we the temperatures are changing, so we have to go into clothing that we wore last year at this time. And it could be that those clothes don't fit the same. So the example I used in the story was jeans, because that's one of the hot spots for a lot of people in their closets. When you pull on the jeans and they don't fit the same, it's an opportunity to be kinder to yourself, because you could easily rage at yourself for the changes in your body, right? You could tell yourself all sorts of things about how you messed up or how you should do things differently with your diet or your exercise. There's lots of harsh, critical commentary you could get caught in. There is another way where you try to be neutral, to try to use neutral language and just simply notice what is in front of you. And that is that these jeans don't fit. These jeans don't fit. And so your body is not the problem. I really try to get people to be on their own body's side. You're on the same team. Your body is not your adversary. The jeans need to go. I mean, I personally keep a bag of these are clothes that don't fit me anymore that I'm going to take to do something with. I keep that bag in my closet all the time. So it's not like a big thing that I do like every quarter. It's something that I do as I go. It's like, yeah, these don't fit. I don't feel the way I want to feel when I wear this. So I'm going to say goodbye to it. I'm not going to live with that feeling anymore. I'm going to honor my experience and my actual like pleasure versus feeling pressure around my belly. I'm not going to live that way. I'm saying goodbye to these. So it's a practice that I recommend to my clients that they greatly appreciate, to give yourself permission to prioritize yourself and your experience over like wearing a certain clothing. I'm glad you're mentioning that story.
Yeah, because I really appreciated it, because how many times have you gone to the closet and then you leave that thing hanging there, and then it's just a reminder every time you open the door that something isn't working, and
Yeah, of
we
course.
we don't need that kind of reminder, but it
Yeah.
is also a way to start to break free from that kind of negative diet culture narrative.
Yes.
Is there anything else that another example of kind of how we could just not go down that rabbit hole?
I think when it comes to food, let me think of a story that is a good story to tell about like making the same kind of neutral choice about food. I told this story, I think, in the webinar to get a perspective on what I mean by kind of partnering with your body. I gave the example of 2 different kinds of days. If I have a day that I have kind of a typical work day where I pack my lunch or I run into the kitchen and prepare a quick bite that might look like a sandwich on one side or something, and then I keep going with my day, I'm going to get hungry in the afternoon. I'm going to get hungry around 3:30 or 4. And I know this because this is what I experience over and over again. And so I'll get myself a little snack. My favorite snack right now is chocolate covered almonds. I put them in a little bowl and then take them back to my desk and enjoy the snack while I get through the afternoon. And then when it comes time for dinner, I am hungry for a substantial meal. The alternative day is I have a special occasion lunch and I go out with a friend and I have this nice rich entree. I may even share a dessert. And then afternoon comes and I don't notice any hunger sensation, so I don't think about going into the kitchen to get a snack. And then when dinner comes, I might not really have that much hunger on board, so I might want a smaller, lighter dinner. And both of those days were not me thinking, I should eat this or I should eat that, or let me count this or calculate that. None of that happened. I was not in my head, but my body was giving me information. And if I now, as a dietitian, go back and look at those days and tabulate, the calories are going to be really close to the same. They're going to be really close to the same. But there were different kinds of experiences, and none of it involved my head. All of it was based on my experience. Now, I will also say that if you've been on a lot of diets, if you've followed a lot of rules, it's really hard to just listen to your body. So it's a process, and that's the process I take people on, is that knowing where you are now, how can we take a step toward your body and away from all the food rules? And then take another step when you're a little bit more secure in the connection that you have with your body, when you're giving yourself a lot more permission for pleasure without being afraid you're going to spin out, which is what a lot of people think is I can't trust myself, because that's what happens when you follow a lot of diets. You end up feeling like I can't be trusted with food. And that's, in my opinion, not the case. You just need some skills. You need to develop some skills around connecting with your body and talking to yourself with a lot more care and compassion.
I think we've all had those experiences because both of the examples you gave are a very typical day. And you're right. You just listened to your body. You knew when you were hungry. You knew when you weren't. But there's also sometimes I feel that, and especially I do this all the time, there's that emotional side of eating where I'm having a bad day. So my first thought is not a walk or a glass of water or a cup of tea. It's the drive-thru at Taco Bell. And guess what? In that moment, I feel really great about myself until I don't. There's that emotional eating that I think so many of us escape to.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to say, and this is very controversial, I know, but it is very normal human behavior to eat to comfort yourself. That is normal. That is not a big pathological problem. At the same time, I think it is wise to have a variety of things that you use to take care of your emotions, or to just simply be with yourself is my favorite. It's just kind of like, see if you can ride through what the emotions are and maybe write about it. I mean, there are many different things you could do, many, many, many. I am a person who really focuses on body practices. So the options that you gave, like going for a walk, have a cup of tea, like call a friend, those are all brilliant. And sometimes it's okay to have Taco Bell. I just want to absolve you from worrying about having Taco Bell, because that's, in my opinion, it's what you do more consistently over time that alters your experience with your body. And I want you to be able to eat for emotional support sometimes. And I know people are going to be upset with me for saying that, but I think it's just true that we all do it. And the more we give ourselves some compassion around that, the more we can get curious. Like if you gave yourself permission, like for me, it would be something sweet. It would be ice cream or something like very sweet. The more I feel like I shouldn't have it and how bad I am for doing it, the more I am going to eat it all. The more I am hard on myself about it, the more I feel like I should not be doing it and I should never do it again and I should eat all the ice cream so then I can start fresh. That is going to create much more of an eating past fullness than if I just sit down with some chocolate and say, I know why I'm doing this, I'm upset with this and that, but I'm going to let myself have this and try to taste every bite. That doesn't spin into anything else. It's just me having some chocolate and go on with my day, which is what I consider to be a win. It's the way that we eat it, the way that we talk to ourselves, and the way that we live most of our days, it's really what it's all about, instead of those every now and then. If you have emotional eating every day, we have some work to do on how you can take care of your emotions.
But it's okay every once in a while to have a bad day. And I liked the thought, being present with it and acknowledging why you're doing that.
Well, if the work that's underneath all of this work that I do is to mend your relationship with your body and to have a much stronger mind-body connection to start with, you'll have more access to what you just said. You'll have more access to like, okay, I just need to feel what's going on and give myself some space to take care of myself a little bit more today. That's more likely to happen.
I don't think a day goes by that I don't hear it referenced somewhere, the concept of self-care. Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? Is it confusing? Because you think that we're constantly supposed to be doing something to take care of ourselves on a daily basis. How do you feel about that term?
Yeah, the term is like so many other terms. It's been so co-opted that it's lost its meaning, right? It's not bubble baths. It is like actually setting boundaries so that you are not so depleted at the end of your day or your week. It is like asking for what you need, noticing what you need and asking for it. I mean, the skill set of taking care of yourself is much needed. And I'm a person who believes that women in midlife have probably, for our generation, I think I'm older than you, but for about our generation, we didn't really receive that information from the lineage ahead of us. I mean, if you were very fortunate, you had a parent who said, "Okay, you need to set a boundary and take care of yourself around this." I don't think we heard that.
No.
What we
I can
witnessed,
guarantee you I did not.
no, what we witnessed was a lot of like placing yourself last and taking care of everybody else and forgetting about yourself. So by the time you're in midlife and older, you really have lost touch with what you need. And that is a skill set to really like give yourself time to get curious about what you need. So that's what I think self-care is. I'm from the South, so I don't know what it's like in your culture, but for us to be selfish was the worst thing you could possibly be. It's the word you do not want to hear associated with you is selfish. And I think people feel selfish when they think about self-care, when that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about really basic skill set around how you notice yourself and see if you can meet your own needs. That to me is self-care. And you can go further, of course. That's kind of like a baseline, but that's a hard baseline. That's a skill set to develop, for sure.
I grew up in Chicago. In the community that I grew up in, it was definitely more family oriented. But
Yes.
what happens then is that when there's, 2, 3, 4, there were 4 children in my family, mom, she definitely took a back seat. And then
Yes.
by the time we were out of the house, I hate to say it, but it was almost like it was not too late, but too late. She didn't think about those things. She didn't worry that she should do more things for herself. So yeah, I think you hit it the nail on the head. For our generation, it's still a new concept.
Yeah. And I think the folks in their 20s and 30s are have different skills and priorities around this. I think I could be wrong. Maybe that's just the Instagram world affecting me. But it looks like there's more conversation about this than there was in the past. So I'm hoping that this is going to be less and less true over time.
Do you think that it is too late for us to have a
No.
positive body image?
I can tell you this is what I feel strongly about is all the studying that I've done around neurology and behavior change and neuroplasticity, which is the fact that our behaviors and our thoughts actually change the organic structure of our brains, which is the most exciting thing that I've ever understood. That can happen. Neuroplasticity can happen till the day you die. You can change how you feel about your body based on what you practice when it comes to how you talk to yourself. And over time, you actually can change how you feel about your own body because it's based in stories that you tell yourself. We weren't born this way. We learned it. So we can unlearn it. This is actually a story that we were told that this is a good body and this is a bad body. And so you look at your body through that lens. So we can change the story based on how we talk to ourselves. And the gene story is a perfect daily story. How do you talk to yourself about your body? And can you practice talking to yourself differently so that you feel differently about your body? I believe it with all my heart.
That's one of the reasons I brought that up was just because I've recently had a member of my community reach out to me and ask for an expert who can speak to that. And that's why I'm really happy to have you here today, because I think especially for women in menopause, our bodies are going through so many changes and it's really hard to catch up with all of that change. And
Yes.
then you find yourself looking in the mirror thinking, I don't even know this person anymore.
It's very real. And I think there's a lot of vulnerability in that. There's a huge vulnerability that was so to fix that, I will join this like diet plan, add this extra exercise plan. And the data is clear. Following those plans 95% of the time doesn't work. So you end up on a cycle of like trying something that's too extreme to sustain, too demanding on most people's lives. And over time, you cannot keep up. So you feel worse about yourself. You feel more like I'm a failure. I mean, that's the fallout from that experience. And then the cycle begins again. I think continues to contribute to that vulnerability when you feel like I've lost touch with who I am. I've lost touch with my actual essence based on what you see in the mirror.
Is there one takeaway from this conversation today that a woman could act on to improve that for herself a little bit?
Whew. I mean, my overarching belief is that looking at your body as an object and a project is problematic. And that if you can shift and be in your body instead of looking at your body, be in your body as your partner to shift the relationship. And that I know is probably a big change, but that's the essence. And to be a little bit more practical, whenever you think I need to control this and that, see if you can change the word to care. Like, how do I care for my body? It's when we're trying to be controlling, like following rules, that we kind of lose the relationship with your body. When you shift that controlling mindset to like, how can I care for myself mindset, that's when you actually make changes that support your best health, your overall well-being. If you can notice when you feel like you're fighting control and make the shift toward, okay, what would it look like to care for myself right now in this decision? Maybe that can be a little bit more tangible.
In the beginning, you briefly mentioned that you also are a yoga teacher. Do you personally incorporate yoga into your life? And is it something that you recommend to the women that you work with?
Yes. The way that I used to like teach an hour and a half yoga practice and like do like a 2-hour yoga practice on a Sunday. And I don't do that anymore. I do little 15, 20-minute yoga bites, so to speak, through my day when I'm waiting for the coffee or when I'm boiling water for something. I do a little yoga in my kitchen. And that I incorporate into my work all the time because it helps us get back at our bodies. And when we're in our bodies and noticing like where we're holding tension or that harsh, critical place in our minds or where we're holding our shoulders up, that really does help us settle our nervous systems. And it's a huge conversation, how much our nervous systems affect our eating, our actual brain function, our gut health. So many things are affected by our nervous system regulation. So it's a big part of the work that I do.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time here today. And
Sure.
I really feel that your thoughts are so valuable and I think can really impact the way a woman feels about herself. Before we go, can you just let the audience know maybe where they could find you and find out more about what you do and how they can maybe reach out to you?
Sure. My website is my name, Deborah, Debra Benfield. And on Instagram, I am, and that's the only real social media place where I land, is at Aging Body Liberation. And you can find everything that I do from my Instagram account. Everything is listed there. So that might be the easiest way to find me. I really just wanted tell you how much I appreciate your curiosity about this, and bringing this message to your membership, I think is really something I appreciate.
Oh, thank you. I just, I think sometimes we need a little positivity. We
Yes.
have to look at it a little differently. And I'm really going to take away the way I look at trying to control something and maybe just caring for myself a little bit. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Real Insights. If you want to hear more about how other women manage weight gain and their body images, order your copy of Empart, Real Stories, Real Wisdom, Real Menopause on Amazon today. And don't forget to join the conversation at joinempart.com. Until next time, remember, menopause is a journey, but you're not alone.